And folks, welcome back. Hopefully you've had the opportunity to visit the virtual trade show floor. At this time, I'd like to actually invite Robert back to deliver our first keynote event of the day. Now, his keynote will be on financial mastery. Now, Robert, you took the time to craft the word mastery, so no pressure, but that was a word you used. So let's see how we can dive into this. Now, it's to create how to create a highly profitable business. Now, again, you're using the word mastery, not even profitable, but highly profitable business. Now, you're setting yourself up with this title. As we did mention earlier, he has recently published his best-selling The Wealthy Entrepreneur book, dedicated to sharing the vision to results framework to lead extraordinary results in any business, because he brings to the table financial clarity for entrepreneurs in their endeavors. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to hand it over to Robert. Thank you once again.
Great, thank you so much. And just to confirm, you can see my my PowerPoint is up there, and we're good to go. Excellent.
We are good. We are good. Yes.
So thank you once again for the great introduction and the second plug of my book for the day. This is great. I don't even have to talk about it. I normally don't, but it's so great that you've been sharing that with everybody. Listen, guys, I have been a financial expert working with the SME community since 2008. We have been growing our own entrepreneurial business while working with entrepreneurs. We've had lots of experience in doing this. I have just held a full one-day session, a summit, which we call the Ascent Summit, talking exactly about this. So I've tried to condense all my greatest parts down into a 30-minute session for you so that we can add as much value as we possibly can. So I'm going to jump right into it and get started, but just maybe give a little bit of a background on who we are. So Gauvreau CPA, we were founded in 2008. I was a manager and a CPA at a global accounting firm. And as I continued to get promoted into positions of higher level, I found that I was working more and more with other experts because I had a knowledge, but I was working with customers who had other experts at the table and trying to provide value and insights to those experts who do that job every single day. And I come in for a short period of time. It was really challenging. And I felt like I wasn't being fulfilled like I was when I was working with the small business owner. So in 2008, I left my global firm and I started a firm that's dedicated specifically to working with small businesses and entrepreneurs. We've definitely owned a massive space in our market. In fact, we only focus on working with that market, and we continue to grow and scale across Canada and, in fact, across North America, which is pretty amazing for a CPA firm. Not too often do you see massive growth. We've actually been on the growth rankings with Canadian Business, Maclean's Magazine, Globe and Mail as one of the fastest growing companies in Canada over the last year, and going to be on there again this year. So we're really excited about sharing not only the financial knowledge that we have, but the entrepreneurial journey and the hiccups that we've learned from along the way. And we've now found ourselves being a bit of an authority in the space, which is pretty fantastic, because all we're trying to do is continue to move this market and this small business economy forward. Here's what I'm going to address with you today. We're going to look at a financial scoreboard. So often in small business and medium-sized businesses, we don't have the financial optics we need in our business. I'm going to share a story with you. I'm going to share with you how you can get those financial optics in your business immediately, because it's so very important to making the appropriate strategic decisions to take your business to the next level. We're then going to look at understanding and optimizing your financial model. What is a financial model? I'm going to share that with you, and the key elements of it that you need to understand so that you can see the steps you need to take your business forward to the next level once again. And then we're going to look at how we can create growth in our business and how we can really create a high performance financial machine in our business. Why? Because the stronger our business is, the more we're going to be able to reinvest and impact more and more people, which is really what we're committed to trying to do. Okay, so I want to just give you a brief story. So I used to have the great pleasure of working with Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins had recruited us to be his Canadian CPA partner at his business mastery events, which meant that Tony would get up on stage and say, Canadian attendees at our event, I want to make sure that you work with Bob Gauvreau because we've handpicked him and we know that he's going to provide value to you as a small business owner, which was a really great opportunity. Now, one of the things that we had found, one of the results we had found out of this whole relationship was that business owners did not have the ability to see what was happening in their business so they could adapt and pivot in the right way to make the right decisions moving forward to advance their company. Now, I love to share a little bit of a story and an analogy of basketball related to financial optics. And I think it really will resonate with everybody. And basketball, although I'm not, a huge expert in basketball, I know enough about it to share a little bit of a story. Now, we had in Toronto, I'm just outside Toronto. We had Toronto Raptors. We're in the finals a few years ago, right? And against Golden State Warriors. And if you were lucky enough to be at that final game to watch them bring home the title, it would have been one incredible experience. So let's walk through this as a story. So you have these tickets. You're going to the NBA final. You've got your Raptors jersey on and you're ready to go and attend. You're bringing your best friend with you. You guys head off to the stadium and you realize, oh man, we left the tickets on the counter in the kitchen. Devastating, right? So you turn around. We've all done it before where we've left something, we had to turn around and get it. So you're rushing back, but you know that by the time you get the tickets and you get to the stadium, that you're going to be about an hour late for the game. Really disappointing, but you can't wait to get there. So you're rushing in. And when you get into the stadium, the energy is electric. We've got Raptors fans cheering from everywhere. Golden State Warrior fans are cheering just as loud. There aren't as many though in Toronto. And we're watching this game and we hop in and we see the Raptors go down, they score. Golden State comes down, they score. Was it a 2-point or a 3-point? I couldn't quite tell from where I was. So I look up at the scoreboard and the scoreboard is blank. I don't know what the score is when I enter into the game. I don't know how much time's left. I don't know what quarter it's in, right? So me as a fan, I'm really frustrated. I'm trying to figure out, what's happening in this game. Now think of it from the player's perspective or from the coach's perspective. The coach is trying to implement the strategy to win the game. And the fans, we all want our home team to win, but we can't tell when they're going back and forth. We can typically tell when a shot is made, but we can't tell if it's a 3-point or a 2-point shot unless we look up at the scoreboard. One of the things the coaches do during a game as well is they look at the scoreboard and they say, are we winning? Do we need to play defense? Are we losing? Do we need to play offense? How much time is left? Let's implement the appropriate strategy to win the game. Now, imagine this is your business, right? You go into your business every single day and you don't know what your score is. Are you winning the game? Is your business financially performing to the level that you need it to maximize your impact? And is it financially sustainable? What small decisions can we make in our business that will help us take a positive step forward? If you do not have a scoreboard in your company that provides you with up-to-date financial optics, how do you know if you're winning the game? And how will you know what small tweaks you need to make in order to improve those results if you can't even see the results? So very first lesson for you in your business, make sure that you have financial optics. Make sure that you can see them, that you can learn from them, that you have advice related to them to show you and learn from them so that we can, again, take a step forward. Now, the easiest way to implement financial optics or a financial dashboard in your business is to make sure that your bookkeeping is up to date. Now, really great solutions like QuickBooks Online, for example, which is the one that we utilize the most. QuickBooks Online plugs right into your bank account now, and it pulls all the transactions into your business. All you have to do is have someone allocate it. Maybe it's you, maybe it's not. Outsourcing bookkeeping is a really simple thing to do. Our team does outsource bookkeeping. So we take on people's bookkeeping and do it for them, do those allocations. Just making sure that you have financial optics that are up to date will be a game changer in understanding what you need to move forward. So get yourself a QuickBooks Online, get those accounts allocated in your business, have up-to-date financial reports so that you're ready to make key decisions. Now, you might say to me, Bob, that sounds great. I have that, but I don't know what any of it means. And that's what we're going to talk about next. So let's talk about understanding what a financial model is, and then let's look at how we can make small tweaks in our business to optimize our financial model so that we're set to be a high performance machine. Again, as we continue to make small incremental tweaks in the financial performance of our business, that is how we achieve optimal financial performance, and it's a step towards achieving financial mastery. There are three components, and I'm going to make this as simple as possible because I know not everybody is a finance expert, and that is great. You don't need to be a finance expert. You just need to understand the concepts and the mechanics of how it comes together. So there are only three real components in a financial model, at least to the detail that we need to get to today. The three components of a financial model. First is revenue. Revenue is money coming in. That's the sales we make. Those are the contracts that we have in place. That's the dollars coming into our bank account. That's the one that we really understand. As entrepreneurs, we know that the day we start our business, we need to be making sales. We need to be generating revenue because we know we have costs we need to cover. And now we're going to look at those individual costs. So there's two types of expenses inside our financial model. The very first one is our variable expenses, also known as direct costs, cost of goods sold. There's lots of different names out there, but what we want to understand is that they are variable. Variable means that they will go up and down when exterior circumstances are in place. So that would be our revenue. So as our revenue goes up and down, so too will our variable expenses, because our variable expenses are the costs that we incur in order to deliver that revenue. So if we think of that, costs that we incur to deliver that revenue, for me as a CPA firm, my major cost of delivering revenue is people, is payroll. So my major cost of delivering on my revenue, my major variable cost is payroll costs. So for you, if you're a retailer, you're purchasing and selling of inventory. So when you're purchasing your inventory, that's going to be your biggest cost. And as you sell more and more and more, you're going to have to buy more and more and more inventory. It continues to go up at the same rate that your revenue goes up. And that's probably the key element that we need to understand. If our revenue goes up 10%, our variable expenses should go up 10%. Okay, so they will go up and down as our revenue changes. Fixed expenses, on the other hand, are exactly how they sound. They do not change regardless of the fact if our revenue 10x's or if it actually drops. So fixed expenses are something we have to be very, very cautious of. And fixed expenses are one of the areas that we want to try and keep them as low as possible. So again, fixed expenses, example of that would be rent. If we have a physical space that we're in right now, what is the rent on that a month? It's $2,000 a month. Whether I sell $1 million or $20 million, if I don't need more space to take more people on, it's still going to be $2,000 per month, right? It's not completely dependent on our sales so that it doesn't fluctuate from a month-to-month basis. Another example would be insurance. Insurance tends to be a month-to-month contract. Yes, renewals happen and they go up. They likely aren't going up at the same rate that your revenue is going up as well. Utilities, professional fees, anything, memberships and subscriptions, anything that you can book in and it's a monthly commitment that stays the same regardless of what your revenue is, that's a fixed expense. I want to show you an example of how these work though, and the impact that they can have once you really understand how these work together. Okay, so this is a business financial model. In this example, we have a company that has $1 million in revenue. Likely a lot of you can relate to that, whether you're aspiring to $1 million or you've just hit it and you're moving on to the next level. We've all seen or desired that $1 million in revenue. At the same time, to deliver that $1 million in revenue, we have variable costs, costs that we incur that directly relate to delivering that revenue. Purchases, for example, are 25% or 250,000. Subcontractors, people we hire out that aren't our employees to help deliver, maybe it's experts, 15%, that's 150,000. vehicle and travel to get the product or service to that destination it's required in order to fulfill the sale. That's another 50,000. And then payroll, the direct labor related to delivering that product or service. So in this business, we have gross profit, which is our revenue minus our direct costs of $300,000. Now, why is this important? Well, one, we need to make sure that we have a profit. Profit means that we're selling it for more than our direct costs. And you wouldn't imagine how many businesses I meet who feel like they have an 80, 50, 60% profit margin in their business. And then we actually look at the numbers and it's 15 to 20%. We need to know what costs go into delivering our revenue, and it needs to be very specific, because without understanding what is going into these variable costs, we can't make those small tweaks to improve it. So in this example, the gross profit is 30%. So for every sale we make, we're going to generate a 30% profit. Why is that important? Well, we need that 30% profit to cover our fixed expenses. In this example, our fixed expenses are $200,000. We have $100,000 net income in our business. This probably looks something similar to what you've seen in the past. Now, again, there's some key metrics that you need to understand when we look at our financial model. One of those is, what is your break-even point? So in this example, we've got $1 million in sales, but what I need to know is, what is my minimum sales I need to make so that I'm covering all of my expenses? And as you can see here, the calculation of that is $55,555. If I don't make $55,000 in sales, I'm losing money in my business. That is a major financial metric that you need to be aware of. And in this current model, it's 83,000. So we're well above that. However, these are metrics that we just need to keep in mind. Now, I do want to share with you how this works and how this changes. So here is another example of selling one item versus selling two items. So in our first column here, we have $1,000 sale. We have purchases, contractors, vehicles, payroll, $250, of $700. That gives us a profit of $300. So on that one individual sale, I make $300. However, my fixed expenses are still $200, gives us $100 of net income. That's a very similar number. Take away a few zeros from the first example. Now, if we grow our business and we know that we're making profits on our sales, as we expand, we're going to make more money. So in example number 2, with 2 sales, you can see that every single percent, our purchases, our contractors, our vehicle, our payroll, they're all the same percent. We still have a 30% gross profit, but we've sold more, we've sold double. So our gross profit is double. We're $600 versus our $300, and our fixed expenses don't change, right? Our rent doesn't change because we sold 2 items. Now the company makes $400 versus $100. You can see the exponential impact that you can have when you understand your model, and then you can start scaling it up to the next level so that we go from $100 of income to $400. That's a 4 times increase in your bottom line. So very important that we understand how this model works so that we can understand what we need to do to make it better, which is what we're going to look at right now. And I know this might be small, but I thought I'd throw out some key criteria in there that each of you could implement today to make your company more profitable. So again, if we think of those 3 components, we've got 3 areas that we can adjust. We can adjust our revenue, right, which we're going to talk about in a minute. We can adjust our direct costs, those variable costs that we incur to deliver on our sales, and we can impact our fixed expenses. So let's look at the variable costs. What are ways that we can eliminate expenses related to delivering that revenue? We could negotiate reduced prices. If we're selling a product or service, we could likely get it for less money, especially right now. A lot of people want to ensure the longevity of their contracts right now. We could likely reduce the costs that we incur to buy products to deliver. Decrease wasted supplies. So this could be looking at your policies and your procedures and having the appropriate supervision, or creating a performance-based compensation model where employees and team members want to make sure they're not wasting materials. If we're thinking of a contractor, for example, on a job site, if you can eliminate just a little bit of the wasted material, measure twice, cut once, I think is the saying. If we can implement those policies and maybe even reward the employees for creating those efficiencies, we are going to be more profitable as a business. Subcontractors. All of us, when we use a subcontractor, it's typically based on a relationship. However, if the relationship isn't overly solid and we want to try and get a reduced price, we could put that out to the market and see what other people would price those services at. That way we can negotiate maybe a lower price. We could look at creating efficiencies in employees, trying to figure out how we eliminate some of the downtime. How do we make them more productive? What incentives can we put in place in order to eliminate those inefficiencies? And then maybe even look at non-essential wages, getting rid of those, or replacing people who aren't high performers with high performers. All of those will increase our gross profit and will allow us to make more money in our business. Let's look at the fixed expenses component, eliminating non-essential fixed expenses. A few ways, looking at our advertising and saying, are we spending advertising money that isn't generating a return? Or do we have a couple different pools of advertising and one of them performs really well and the other one's not so great? Let's eliminate the one that's not so great and reinvest in the one that's working. What that'll do is it will drop our fixed expenses, especially if we're not reinvesting the whole piece. We'll drop our fixed expenses and it will help produce a higher bottom line in our business. Again, creating a high performance organization. Eliminating non-essential subscriptions. I don't know about you guys, but software is so easy to subscribe to now. Either it's an application or it's a monthly subscription. I know I've got a few CRM platforms that are sitting out there right now that I have monthly subscriptions to that I only use one. So I need to get rid of those and make sure that those don't continue to incur a monthly cost for me. Reprice insurance. So I know my insurance broker every year reprices my insurance. It sends it out to multiple companies to make sure that I'm getting the lowest price. If you're not doing that, make sure that you get that done. Reduce office supply waste. It might not be a significant number, but is there any way that we can make sure that we're not wasting materials and supplies in our office space or at the home office to make sure we're not spending more than we have to? Eliminating non-essential insurance. Sometimes people have life insurance policies or excessive coverage that if something were to happen to their facility, they're not really going to get paid out anymore anyway, but they're paying extra for it. So let's make sure that we're not overpaying for any non-essential insurance. This hasn't been a major issue this year, eliminating non-essential travel. If anything, we probably all want to have a little bit more of a travel budget, but looking at it and saying, if we're going to travel, what are the costs of traveling, even the opportunity costs of traveling? If I'm spending that time in the air or driving, is my time better spent being actively working in the office? And are those extra costs really necessary in my business? So let's eliminate any of those non-essential expenses. And another one for me, I know I go over data all the time on my phone, making sure that I bump up my phone data plans so that I'm not paying more than I have to. So if anything, guys, in that last 5 minutes here, looking at these different expense categories, if you can implement even 2 or 3 of those at 3 to 5%, you're going to have a massive difference in creating a financial performance machine in your business. Okay, so now we've looked at the financial model. We've looked at it, we've optimized it, we've tightened it up. We're going to make as much profit as we can on the sales that we have, but now we're going to get ready to grow our business. Now, again, working with Tony Robbins, got the great pleasure to learn from so many incredible people. One of those people being Jay Abraham. For those of you who don't know who Jay Abraham is, you should definitely look him up. He's a brilliant, brilliant man. One of the greatest marketing minds of all time. And one of the challenges that Jay and I had were we were talking about the only 3 ways to grow your business. And he was explaining it to me. And I said, well, Jay, I can think of 100 different ways that I could grow a business. And he goes, yes, but they really fundamentally only come down to 3 categories. And he was absolutely right, with a caveat that I add in there as well. The very first way to grow your business, and this is the one that we all think of, this is where we add customers or clients. We go out, we capture leads, we have meetings, we're generating ongoing contracts, we're adding more and more customers, we're delivering more and more customers in our business. So super, super attractive way to grow. Again, that's the way that we all kind of picture it in our minds, the sexy part of growing a business. The second part, though, was interesting to me. So he said, well, instead of finding new customers, how about looking at your existing customers and making sure that they buy more from you? So, for example, if you sell one product or service to a customer once a year, you could double your business if you just sold them two products or services once a year. So two products or services once a year, or the same product or service twice a year. Either way, you're doubling your revenue. And I was like, wow, that's super interesting. Need to take advantage of that. And then he threw another caveat in here and said, okay, so even if you only have one product or service and you don't plan on innovating or providing any extra solutions to your customers, which you almost have an obligation to do. He said, let's forget about that for a minute. But what about if you ask your existing customers to refer somebody to you, which we all know is an easy strategy to add clients to our business, but none of us really do it very well. So he said, could you add, one new customer out of every 10? So of every 10 services or products you deliver, could you get one of them to refer a new customer to you? And I was like, well, that kind of sounds pretty easy. He said, yes, but it's easy to say it, but actually do it and put a system in place to actually have that happen. So that's the second way to grow our business, which, is a little bit mind-blowing because I always pictured it as getting new clients, serving more. And then the third one hit me. The third one is the easiest way to grow your business in the shortest period of time. And it doesn't involve taking on more work. If we're delivering to more people, we're getting more leads. That's more work to do, more employees, more purchases, right? If we're coming up with an innovative solution or we're asking for referrals, that's delivering more product, more service. The third one, especially if we're busy in our business right now, right? If we're getting close to capacity or we know that the demand for our product is extremely high, the easiest way to grow our business is to increase our pricing. I'll give you a quick little story here on this. I have a client who owns a larger business, but they opened a small coffee shop inside their business. And we had this exact same discussion. The coffee shop wasn't making enough to cover its expenses. What could we do? And I said, well, let's increase the price of the coffee by 10%. The business owner said, absolutely not. That's a tough thing. Coffee is pretty competitive. There's coffee shops on every corner. And I said, yes, but the value you're adding to your experience is different than everybody else. And people are coming to you for that experience. If you don't increase your pricing, it's not a financially viable investment. Then we're going to have to make even more difficult decisions. She goes, okay, you got me. I'm going to increase my price. So she increases her price, and what happens? Nobody says anything. She increased it 10%, except for one person. One individual came in with the exact right amount of change, put it down on the counter and said, I'd love my large coffee. And they said, unfortunately, the prices are higher, but we know that you come in with your change. No problem. We'll get you today. Just know that next time it's going to be 10% higher. And I said, what was the response? He came back the next day, no challenge. This company went from being not financially viable to now financially successful just in tweaking pricing, because when we increase our pricing, our profitability goes up without having to deliver to any more people. Now, the last thing that I jump in here too with Jay Abraham is to say, if we don't retain our customers, if we don't provide value, if we don't continue to deliver and follow up on our promise, it doesn't matter how many people we add or what the price is that we charge. If we can't keep those people that we work with, we're going to have a hole in our bucket and it's going to fall out. So the last thing I throw in is retention. We need to continue to add value more than anyone else to our customers. And the last piece I just want to share with you is a 10x5 high performance strategy. This is new that we've just brought this out. But what I would love for each of you to do is, if you want to create a high performance company, I want you to go out and I want you to find these 5 things, and together they compound and make a massive difference. I'm going to quickly show you that as well. The 5 things: reduce your variable expenses 10%. I just gave you 5 or 6 ideas on how to do that. If you could take even 4 of them and get 2.5% savings in each one, that's going to change your business. Reduce fixed expenses by 10%. Renegotiate, reprice. Let's look at any of those expenses we can to eliminate that are non-essential. We can save 10% in there. It's going to make a massive difference. Looking at adding 10% more customers. We're already doing this anyway. right? This is where we're marketing and we're generating leads and we're growing our business. That's the sexy side of it. But let's go in and ask for referrals. Let's go in and innovate and provide a new solution to our existing customers. Let's get a 10% growth in that way. And then let's add 10% price increase. And right before I go, I want to show you exactly what this looks like financially. If you can do this, here's our original number. If we can implement the 10 by 5 financial strategy, you can see you went from $1 million company to 1.3 in revenue, not a substantial deal, right? Many of you will be able to grow your business by 30% this year, but it's what's below the key elements of the financial model that are really driving these results. You can see that in our original model, we were making 100,000. In the second example, by implementing the 10 by 5, we're making a $280,000 net income. That is a substantial increase. If you guys can implement these small steps in your business, you will create a high performance machine and you will be well on your way to financial mastery. Thank you guys so much for the opportunity to come in and speak to you today. I'm definitely going to be at the booth with my colleague, Hannah. So make sure you drop by and see us. And if there's any way I can add value to any of you, I'm happy to do it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Robert, for being with us here today. Love to pick your brain about your experience with the tall guy, Tony Robbins, right?
The big man.
Right, yeah. But we're certainly going to sidestep that, because what you've done for us is you've taken these 30 minutes and you've boiled it down to a 10 by 5 model. And what's interesting is dealing with an accounting firm, you would tend to think that that would be represented by tracking and monitoring numbers. Not so much. It's actually the consultative side that you're adding to how to not only track and save money, but to grow money. When you're hanging out with folks like Jay Abraham, you mentioned 3 of the things. Hey, you should do these things. But I want to focus on something you said that you added: the value, retention. Everyone's focused on the front door, bring it in. Why do you focus on the back door? Why does that matter? Retention.
Yeah, 100%. And it's one of our values, right? So inside our business, we have core values: people, passion, and integrity. And all of those core values really say we need to deliver on our promise, right? For the people, because we want to do it and because that just means something to us. We stand for what we say. And not only for us, but in every business, right? It's so easy to run and gun and make the sale and make the next sale. But if your clients aren't having a great experience, they're very quickly going to turn to a competitor who's maybe doing it for less money. And maybe they won't have a great experience there either. But what we don't want to do is have those people even want to consider someone else. We want to look at it and say, how do we create the greatest experience for any of our customers? Like Amazon, for example, right? Amazon has created this super simple structure for all of us, and we all get caught up in it, and we end up buying things that we don't even want because they've made the experience so simple for us and they retain us. And that is so valuable for every business. If there's a hole in the bottom of the bucket, as much as we bring on new clients, we're not going to be able to grow at the pace we want to.
Fantastic. Thank you for, expanding on just the concept of retention. I mentioned when we started, one of the things I do for a day job is manage leverage consulting, where we help from a sales perspective businesses. And you said something that really resonates with the approach that we take. And I wanted you to expand on that a little bit. Most folks will think, I have to come up with a new way. So they're on this invent tip. But you're changing the equation from maybe not invent, but why don't we innovate? Can you speak a little bit more about how it's actually more cost effective to innovate and build what you have instead of ripping and replacing and inventing something entirely new? Can you speak to the concept of innovating versus inventing?
Yeah, and specifically, I think this is related to growth as well, and looking at it and saying we have these customers that already exist, and what is it that we can continue to offer them or slightly modify and offer to them that it entices them to come back and buy from us more frequently. right? Instead of having to come up with, like, if we had one product, developing and creating one brand new product, there's a lot of research and development that goes into that. But can we modify our product and what we deliver to make it that our customers want to buy it more times per year, right? Can we make it more appealing to them? And I think, part of it is strategy. So part of it is strategy and looking at your business and saying, how can we continue to deliver more and more results to our customers, right? So that we're creating that experience that they just want to continue to be part of. And I think instead of having to create from scratch, just modifying that and looking at our business and how we can deliver things in a different way that just makes it more appealing to people. So, I could probably get into lots of specifics, but I know there's lots of things that we have to accomplish at this conference today, but hopefully that makes sense from a general standpoint.
It absolutely does. And not only that, folks, Robert has already mentioned that he'll be with Hannah at the booth at the virtual trade floor. You'll also have the opportunity to hear him share tomorrow at 1:30 as well. He'll be one of our panelists for one of the moderated sessions. There is one question, a number of questions. The one that we wanted to select to encourage you folks to ask him at the booth. So go visit him at the booth. But I just wanted to prep Robert for this question because it was a really powerful thought that you mentioned. You said, hey, we want to save money by reducing travel. Okay, maybe February 2020, but now what markers or signs should we be looking for? I'm not trying to get you to answer that question now, folks. Please speak with his team, because these are the types of things that they can help you consider and think through. What types of signs and markers should companies be tracking when they're considering, let's increase the budget and the spend on travel? How do we justify the spend now? Do we measure it against a certain margin ROI to justify spend on travel again? So again, folks, that type of information and knowledge and depth is what his team can provide. Please visit him and Hannah again at the booth. They're waiting for you there, and tomorrow you'll get to hear from Robert. Robert, again, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us, and that beautiful hue glow that you got going on, buddy. It's working. It's working. It's bringing out your cheekbones. It's certainly bringing them out. So thank you very much for taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you so much. This has been great.